I flinched as the metallic door slammed shut behind me, echoing off the sleek, crystalline walls of the atrium chamber. The Council had convened under emergency protocols, which could only mean one thing: we were in deeper trouble than ever. Never a good sign when you're called to deliberate with the likes of Zelhara, the Council's most relentless enforcer of intergalactic law. I was the human liaison, the only representative of our species seated at the table of the most powerful entities in the galaxy. It didn't take long for the discussions to turn sour. Do you not comprehend the dangers your kind poses? Zelhara's voice sliced through the tension as sharply as her claws glinted in the chamber's harsh lighting. Her eyes narrowed, twin orbs of hissing ember. Your reckless existence disrupts the balance we've fought centuries to maintain. The others shifted in their seats, their synthetic skin shimmering or peeling in anxious fits. I could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on me, a tug-of war between my duties and my fragile sense of belonging. We humans were always caught in the cross-hairs of fear and fascination. Zelhara, I believe you're overreacting, I interjected, springing into the fray with a gumption I didn't entirely believe in. We've made progress in establishing alliances. We're not savages. Progress? You mean that the constructs of your reckless scientists have made contact with the Heraxians? She retorted, her voice climbing to a near-pitched roar. They will bring ruin to their worlds. Your kind has a singular vision of dominance that we are all threatened by. I inhaled deeply, forcing my composure to hold the line. You seem to forget that our collaborating planets formed the first coalition. Without us, your precious treaties would likely be scraps of stardust now. Another member of the Council, a gelatinous being known only as Sci-Fi, emitted soft, pulsing flashes of light in response to my statement, translating emotions I wished were clearer. Caution may be warranted, yet perhaps humanity brings value we don't fully comprehend. The hesitance from Sci-Fi was a glimmer of progress, but I could feel the tension tightening around my throat. Objectively, I knew that humanity was new to this constellation of civilizations, but the Council's ingrained distrust brewed like a storm ready to spill. Before I could grasp the fleeting moment of support, the chamber's ambient glow shifted to crimson, the warning signal. A violent tremor shook the very foundations beneath us. I barely managed to maintain my footing against the sudden jolt. Something's wrong, I muttered, my heart racing as alarms began to wail in a symphony of chaos. Zelhara's expression transformed from condescension to urgency. You are correct. The security of the coalition is at stake. Her obsidian features hardened, betraying a flicker of something unexpected, fear. My thoughts raced as I watched her, realizing that for the first time in years sitting with the Council, she wasn't merely a foe to vanquish. She was scared. What's happening? An incursion, Sci-Fi hissed. An unregistered ship has breached our perimeter. Their technology, it appears, advanced even for human standards. I felt a sense of dread crawl up my spine. My mind raced to parse the implications, a human ship breaching the defenses of the Council. That could only hint at one thing. There were factions within our own species that thrived on isolation and power, that believed diplomacy was a weakness to exploit. I saw the glint of opportunity in their reckless decisions, and it pained me to know that we were all at the mercy of those few. This has to be a misunderstanding, I replied, my voice steady despite the growing apprehension. We need to confront them. See if they can be reasoned with. Listen, Zelhara interrupted, fury igniting in the tendrils of her aura. Your naivete will be your kind's undoing. The Council will not stand idly by as you pursue a folly that threatens our way of life. We must retaliate or be doomed. Retaliation. The word echoed bitterly in my head as I considered the irony only weeks ago. I'd been trying to convince them to accept us, yet here I was, caught up in a whirlwind of fear, surrounding what a coalition of humans might do next. Policing our own species was hard enough. We didn't need the Council's lack of trust transitioning into petty hostility. Don't you see?" I protested, injecting urgency into my words. "This isn't about the humans, it's a concern for every race involved. What if they refuse to engage or worse, retaliate? Do you honestly think attacking first is the solution?" "Enough," boomed a resonant voice from the far end of the chamber. It belonged to Lord Threx, a robed figure of crystalline scales glinting gold. "We will convene a discourse later. Right now, it seems we're facing an unforeseen crisis. Human or otherwise, the Council must act." The emergency protocols were initiated, and my heart raced at the impending chaos. Outside, I could hear the whir of ships rising, engines firing up as they prepared to hunt down the ships piloted by potentially rogue humans. Our coalition hung on the precipice, swaying between trust and fear. I knew I was racing against time as I turned toward the exit, but this time I wasn't fleeing. I had to find out who the intruders were, earn their trust before the Council blindly pursued retaliation. The fate of both humanity and this fragile coalition rested on my shoulders, and I was done allowing fear to dictate our future. I had to do this for their sake, ours, and a galaxy that would provide the realm of truth or doom. As the door slid open and the corridor unfolded before me, I braced myself for action. At that moment, I understood something stark and urgent. Our journey as humanity was just beginning, and the Galactic Council's fear might transform into something far more dangerous if I didn't intervene soon. The rhythmic hum of the ship's engines enveloped me as I boarded the small cruiser that would take me to Agakura 7, a planet rumored to be a hideout for the rebellious human faction known as the Zenith Collective. It hovered on the outskirts of the known galaxy, a haven where any beings from the Coalition could escape their oppressive grasp. I was supposed to report all findings back to the Council, but right now, my mission blurred with desperation. I needed to uncover the truth. As I settled into the pilot seat and initiated the launch sequence, I felt the weight of uncertainty settle in the pit of my stomach. The ship's diagnostics flashed green, the system responding to my commands with an effusion of digital data. My unease only intensified as I engaged the warp drive. Setting a course had been the easy part. Facing whatever awaited me on Agakura 7 was the true unknown. The enigmatic world erupted into view mere moments later, its lush green valleys and towering crystalline structures shimmering beneath violet skies. A stark contrast to the sterile environments of the Council chamber, and a reminder of the organic beauty evolving across so many ecosystems in our galaxy. As the cruiser descended, I glimpsed errant vessels zipping around like busy insects, each with a sense of purpose I was about to intrude upon. Touching down softly on a landing pad echoing the shape of an ancient starburst, I caught sight of figures approaching, silhouettes of fellow humans dressed in understated, rugged clothing. The familiar shoes of humanity felt comforting, but they clamored in stark contrast to my formal attire, which felt like it belonged on a stage rather than a battlefield. Two men stepped forward, armed but relaxed, standing shoulder to shoulder as they regarded me with wary eyes. To their right, a striking woman with a wild mane of dark hair exuded authority. An unmistakable aura of strength radiated from her. I instinctively recognized her as Orion Gray, one of the leading figures of the Zenith Collective. Her reputation as a skilled negotiator and formidable warrior seemed to precede her. "State your purpose," one of the men demanded, his voice clipped with suspicion. His finger grazed the hilt of his weapon, and I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "I'm here in a capacity far from the Council's orders," I stated, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I seek to understand your objectives. There's been a breach of Council space, and I need to know if your hand is in this." Orion tilted her head, glancing between her comrades. "You've put yourself at great risk appearing here, human. Come with us before the Council decides to send a fleet after you." As much as the offer suggested trust, it felt eerily tinged with manipulation. I nodded, squaring my shoulders as I followed them through a maze of illuminated pathways leading into Agakura 7 Heart. Clusters of people hustled in every direction, Their faces a mix of determination and desperation, seeking purpose in a world torn between multiple allegiances. Just so you understand, Orion began, her voice low, we don't adhere to the Council's rules. We are fighting to reclaim humanity's place among the stars unfiltered by political greed. The Council fears that your efforts may inspire an uprising, I countered. But at what cost? If you're radicalizing our species, our alliances might crumble. Isn't that what they do? One of the men stepped closer, clasping his hands behind his head, exposing the scars of battle etched into his flesh. They bind us to their laws like a noose and call it security. The way he spoke resonated with experiences I had only partially grasped. It made me realize that while I thought I understood the motivations behind my kind, this world was painted with a broader spectrum of ambition and pain. What do you want? I probed, trying to maintain a delicate balance between curiosity and skepticism. Orion paused, then gestured toward an enclosed area reminiscent of a command center. Holographic projections adorned the walls like tainted constellations, each depicting diagrams of the Council's political maneuvers and human conflicts that had surged in recent weeks. We want a better future, one where humanity is not marionetted by power-hungry leaders, she declared, her eyes steel, like with ambition. But to enact any real change, we need the support of every individual willing to stand against the oppression. Oppression or not, the Galactic Council has its merits, I protested, feeling a sense of protective loyalty for the very institution that had spurned me so recently. You could be condemning innocent people to war. We are already in a state of war, Orion replied, her voice hardening. You just haven't perceived it yet. The Council thinks it can maintain control by suppressing knowledge and truth. As her words resonated within me, the sound of footsteps disrupted the unspoken tension that had crystallized between us. A robust figure emerged, flanked by two soldiers whose presence commanded respect. It was Vega, a figure synonymous with rebellion, known for his strategic brilliance. He possessed a fierce conviction that pulled followers in droves. Do we have a guest from the Council? He interjected with a cocky grin. The brave one at that, causative of all this chatter. He looked between Orion and me, then leaned in conspiratorially. We might need you, after all, but first will you pledge allegiance to our cause? I felt my heart sink, every expectation I held incinerated under his unexpected proposition. I'm not here to pledge, I'm a diplomat. My intent is to broker peace, not allegiance. Peace? He laughed, voice booming with misguided mirth. What is peace but a fragile state resting upon lies? Do you honestly believe trust can be cultivated when the Council keeps you grounded in chains? Chains that can also protect us, I retorted, conflicting emotions swirling in my chest. You're neither right nor wrong. The truth exists in an uneasy balance. It was then that Orion stepped forward, intentionally placing herself between Vega and me. If the Council wants to approach violence without understanding, then they will spark a wildfire. Sometimes those in power need a force to counteract their weight. I stared into her fierce eyes and realized that maybe we were on the cusp of a revelation I had been too blind to see. If the Council acted prematurely against humanity, it would validate the Zenith Collective's existence. The most troubling aspect pressed heavily against my awareness. I was now tangled in the web of conflicting ideologies, and the weight of each choice intensified. As I left that makeshift command center and stepped outside, the skies folded into a storm, dark clouds looming over the vibrant landscape that hinted at a brewing tempest. The world before me vibrated with life, but somewhere beyond, chaos threatened the fragile coalition I had fought so hard to strengthen. That question played over and over in my mind. What if our worlds were less divided than we believed? What if peace through meaningful collaboration was possible even in uncertainty? As I walked, a distant thrum of engines rose, and the atmosphere crackled with urgency once again. A fleet of Council ships had descended on Agakura 7, their pursuit relentless. I felt it in my very core, our paths were irreversibly intertwined. Echoes of previous debates reverberated, mingling with the newfound knowledge that the truth about our humanity and our futures remained unread. And just as I prepared to forge alliances, I had to confront the undeniable reality that each moment would test the loyalty within our hearts. Only the truth can weave the fabric of our salvation. I whispered into a shroud of uncertainty as I steeled myself for what lay ahead, realizing I would not merely broker peace, but face an inevitable reckoning against the cultures I once thought immutable. With humanity hanging in the balance, I opened my mind to the unknown. The choices made now would echo far beyond Agakura 7, rippling across galaxies, redefining destinies prepared to collide. As the Council ships drew closer, I felt the first gusts of a storm brewing, and with it, the promise of everything I had dared to seek. The cruel wail of sirens merged with the rolling thunder over Agakura 7, as shockwaves erupted like churning seas in distant void. I stepped out of the makeshift command center into the streets, feeling the pulse of urgency that coursed through the gathered crowd. The faces around me wore masks of determination laced with anxiety. I sensed we were standing on the precipice of a reckoning that would either galvanize our existence as a species or lead to our absolute downfall. "Orion," I called, forcing my way through the throngs of citizens and rebels. She turned, the strands of her dark hair whipping against her face, her eyes alive with purpose. "The Council isn't here for diplomacy anymore. They're coming for blood." "Then we have no time to waste," she replied brusquely, gesturing to her comrades. "We need to mobilize our forces. If they believe they can wipe us out here, they're mistaken. Wait." I held up my hand, desperation surging within me. "We need to think strategically. If you strike first, they'll see it as treachery. You're giving them exactly the reason to escalate the conflict." Orion's fierce gaze softened for a fleeting moment before hardening again. "And what do you suggest instead?" I scanned the chaos around me, ideas threading together like constellations igniting. "We can create a diversion, draw them away from civilians, then make a stand near the old communication tower. It has defense grids we can repurpose. To do that, we'd need every able body here," Vega interjected, striding over with an air of unyielding resolve. "We'd need a plan that allows us to confront them, to make our voices heard." Behind us, the first Council ships broke the horizon, ominous silhouettes silhouetted against the darkening skies. They hurtled towards the planet's surface with brutal efficiency, and the whir of their engines felt like a ticking clock, counting down the minutes until the inevitable clash of ideologies. "The people will rise to defend their home if they know what's at stake," I urged, adrenaline turning my blood cold. "Let's gather everyone. I'll broadcast an emergency message to rally them. We can heighten awareness about the Council's true intentions." "The message will only have reach if we can hack their communication grid first," Orion said, tightening her fists. "There's a terminal in the tower. That's our best shot." Vega and Orion exchanged glances, a shared understanding born of necessity. "Let's move," Orion commanded, waving for the gathering crowds to follow, and soon enough, bodies surged forward like a relentless tide. As we navigated the narrow alleys, flashes of light burst in the sky above, scattering the familiar landscape into a scene of impending doom. I spotted a couple of Council ships zooming overhead, the metallic behemoths crackling with energy. In between them, smaller fighter vessels hotly pursued the occasional resistance ship that had attempted an escape. Each thrum of energy transformed lives into mere flickers of existence against the machine of authority. When we reached the communication tower, its weathered structure loomed over us. The faint hum of energy emanating from its core felt like a heartbeat, one we had to revive to spark our own. Yet, as we neared it, I noticed the flicker of silhouettes moving within. Council troops were already stationed inside. The odds were shifting significantly. "Coordinates are empty," Vega muttered, scanning the area. "We need to act fast. Can you cut through their security? Trust me." I took a breath, steeling my resolve, tightening my grip on the device I had brought, a small transponder that could bypass some basic security features. "But it won't be perfect. We'll need to create a distraction. No worries there. Vega clapped a hand against his chest, grinning. I think I can help with that. The next moments rushed like a flood, chaos braided with unity as we set our plan in motion. Vega launched a series of flash explosives toward one side of the tower, a series of synchronized blasts ripping through the air, drawing attention away from our primary target. The deafening noise erupted as Counsil guards scrambled to respond, darting toward the disturbance, leaving the entrance thriftless. Now, Orion shouted, and we raced forward through the disarrayed craters, slipping past the remaining guards who had stretched their defenses too thin. Once inside, I directed Orion to the terminal, while I worked on reconfiguring the security protocols to our advantage. I could hear Artemis's voice echoing in memories, the same steady presence that had driven me to negotiate over force, but in separating myself from the Council, I could finally feel the slow surge of hope coil into determination. Give us 5 minutes, Orion barked as she worked feverishly. If we can get a signal out, we might just sway those caught in the crossfire. Minutes felt like hours as the hum of machinery echoed a backdrop to the frenzy outside. With my heart pounding, I accessed the command interface. Alerts pinged as I successfully looped security footage and initiated a system override. The door hissed shut just as we heard the remaining footsteps commanding authority behind us. There wasn't much time left. We had to finish this. Signal is spooling. Orion continued to type furiously. Almost there. Just a few more commands, I replied, focusing on the monitor. My fingers flew across the console as I made computed adjustments. Every keystroke ignited visions of the future we were striving for. Until suddenly, everything went dark. The terminal flickered, lights dying around us like stars extinguished in a cosmic void. The power, Orion shouted amidst the rising clamor. What happened? It's the overload. We pushed it too hard, I replied, panic fluttering in my chest. Someone's trying to shut us down, then we fight. Vega called, determination blazing in his eyes as he stood between us and the encroaching threat. He didn't wait for a command. Instead, he darted toward the door, ready to join the fray. Keep working. I'll hold them off. No, don't. But he was already gone. Time spiraled into an echoing void, and I felt dread clenching my gut as I heard the shouts and blasts erupting from the hallway outside. Can you fix it? Orion asked, frustration threading her voice. I can try, but we may need to retreat, I declared, glancing toward the door as the sounds of confrontation blared. No, she shot back. We're not running. Activate the backup systems. We work as one. We're humanity. Mayn't united. I could feel the spark of hope taking root. My fingers moved over the console, unwilling to relent. I dove deeper into the mainframe, sifting through encrypted data faster than I'd known was possible until the screen erupted with vibrant colors, illuminating the dark chamber. The signal was live. Orion, it's working. I'm establishing a broad spectrum emergency message, I called. Excellent, she replied, relief washing over her. Make it count. The lives caught in this chaos depend on what you say. As my voice echoed into the void, I felt energy pulling through my nerve endings, pushing against the barriers of fear that had constrained me for too long. People of Agakura 7, listen. The Council seeks to divide us through violence, through fear, but we are not just pawns in their game. Together, we can shape the destiny fought for in unity, strength, and truth. The energy surged and crescendoed, reviving fervor inside me. Our existence, our futures, are ours to control. If the Council approaches us with hostility, they will be met with our resolve. We reject this notion of division. Orion's eyes sparkled with defiance, and I sensed unity resonating amidst the chaos. I could feel the ripples of discontent stoking the embers around me. But then, the overwhelming force of Council troops poured forward, their armored bodies shielded by battle gear, and I could almost see the flicker of doubt in their eyes. They were tasked to crush insurgents, yet resistance was thrumming like a heartbeat, a palpable sign they weren't as isolated as their commanding officers presumed. Just outside the door, Vega fought valiantly against the group, exchanging blows with fierce determination. While fear wormed its way into my thoughts, a single truth echoed clearly. This was not just a battle. It was a chance to reshape our reality. Together, I shouted, and Orion joined in, rallying the gathered rebels behind us. For every fallen, for every life that hangs in balance, we will be the voice that echoes across the galaxy. As the Council troops breached the doorway, I saw the moment crystallize as barely a heartbeat. Vega stood tall, defiance etched into his very being, and the crowd rushed in like a tidal wave behind him. We fought not just for Agakura 7, but for our future woven with the values of collaboration, trust, and humanity forged anew. The swirling maelstrom pulled us deeper into conflict. The very tide we anticipated was now our own awakening as the truth unraveled before our eyes. It was then I realized that between us lay the raw essence of something greater. The vibration of the galaxy echoed within each choice we made. The choices that would either forge an alliance resilient against a tempest, or define our fate further in enslavement to the will of the Council. And thus, as the dust swirled around us, igniting our fight against the looming shadows, I understood. This was only the beginning. Each challenge was a thread unraveling toward an intricate tapestry of unknown outcomes, a journey toward truths yet untold, revealing legends waiting to be written by humanity's own hands. Our path ahead was cluttered with uncertainty, but I was resolute that we would fight. Side by side, we would forge a future that blended ambition with compassion, and in the wake of confrontation, the world would gasp anew, sparks blossoming into endless possibilities. The clang of metal against the stone, flecked corridor reverberated as we fought our way through the Council's troops. Shadows flickered around me, an organic dance of rebellion against the sterile authority that had long dictated our existence. With every clash and spark of energy, a new determination ignited within the hearts of those gathered. We were no longer just individuals. We had fused into a collective straining against an oppressive force. Over to the right, I yelled, catching sight of more guards rushing toward us, their beady eyes obscured behind fortified visors. Vega lunged forward, unleashing a burst of energy from his sidearm that lit up the corridor, hitting one of them squarely in the chest. The guard crumpled, and the momentum of our fight surged. This way, Orion guided us toward a junction, weaving through the chaos with a practiced hand. Sweat dripped from my brow as the air swelled with tension, each heartbeat syncing with the thundering footsteps of those resisting us and those trying to quell our resolve. The terminal should be just ahead, she shouted over the tumult. Focus on the mission, I urged, though the energy of combat felt intoxicating, alive, as if 1,000 possibilities were unfolding in real time. We were at a pivotal juncture, and I could sense it in the charged air. As we neared the terminal, the walls flickered with warnings, sensors triggering alarms that echoed like banshees wailing their impending doom. This was the heart of the Council's communication grid, and our best chance to turn the tide. If we could get our message beyond the walls of Agakura 7, we wouldn't just be fighting a battle, we'd be igniting a revolution. Cover me, Orion ordered, sliding in front of the terminal console, her fingers dancing across the surface with insane speed. I need a direct link to the Coalition. On it, Vega shouted, matching her energy as he prepared to hold off additional guards pouring in from all around. My heart raced wildly. I couldn't let this moment slip through our fingers. Stay back, I shouted as I released my energy weapon, startled by the sheer weight of urgency behind my voice. The tide shifted again as I took up a defensive stance alongside Vega. Our backs pressed against the console, dominating terminal, we formed a temporary bulwark against the advancing troops. The air split with the crack of blasters, reverberating through the corridor like the heartbeat of a world on the brink of transformation. We need that signal, I yelled, desperately catching a glimpse of lights dancing across the console. They're almost here. I'm working as fast as I can, Orion replied, barely glancing at me as she focused intently on the screen. If I can bypass their security protocols, we can send out a message detailing the truth, everything the Council has done to manipulate us. The sounds of combat intensified, echoing far beyond our immediate confrontation. "We need everyone aware of the Council's oppressive nature," I added, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "They can't hide behind their dissociation any longer." "There's too much pingback," Orion grunted, wincing as she forced a command prompt that should have shut down the whole network. "I need a few seconds of silence." I turned instinctively toward the entrance as guards stormed through, guns held high and poised to eradicate our effort. "Stand firm," I yelled as I crossed paths with a fellow rebel slashing through a guard's line. "We'll hold them off." A final command shot through the terminal, and the console flared with radiant light, imbued with our shared fervor. The message of unity unfolded before my eyes, brilliant energy erupting through the veins of the comm system. Then, encased in a flurry of blaster bolts, a shift in shadows caught my eye. Zilhara stood at the end of the corridor, flanked by Council Guard reinforcements. Her obsidian form contrasted sharply against the illuminated chaos of our rebellion, her ember eyes gleaming with unquenched fury. "You dare defy the Council?" she yelled, the underlying threat of her voice coiling like a serpent ready to strike. "Yes," I declared defiantly, fitting into the role of a reluctant player-turned-ally. "We dare because we are alive, because we refuse to continue as dictated testers of a coalition that steals our voice. Your misguided bravery will lead to your destruction," Zilhara snarled, curling her sharp claws into fists. "All of you will pay the price for treachery. Not if we stand together," I shouted, gripping my weapon tighter. I took a step forward, heart hammering against expectations. What you misconstrue as treachery is a cry for truth. Humanity has a voice that won't be extinguished by fear. Zilhara hesitated. A fleeting moment of uncertainty flashed across her intense gaze. Time slowed as it bounced between the charged uncertainty of loyalty and fear. "You think you can unite against the Council and withstand the consequences? You're wasting your time," she raged, but her breath was laboring, suggesting perhaps a fracture in her resolute facade. "Then let us waste time together," I offered, the captures of vulnerability slipping through the surface. "We are still here, united and determined. The goal we seek is worth every ounce of conviction." "Distract her." Orion's voice broke through the rising tension. I nodded, turning back toward Zilhara, when suddenly Vega stepped forward and lunged at her. Time refracted into an indiscernible spiral. The sound of blaster fire erupted through the air as Vega shouted and crashed into Zilhara. The two figures tumbled together, colliding unnaturally as I scrambled toward the console, panic straining through my veins. "Now, while she's distracted," Orion shouted, fingers flying over the terminal, attempting to initiate the broadcast. I hurled my blaster fire towards Zilhara just as she regained her composure, the talons embedded in Vega's side. My aim was true, and suddenly a burst of radiant energy enveloped the corridor. I witnessed the shock in Zilhara's eyes as the beam surged past, rippling the air before striking the wall, reflecting energy outward like a bolt of shattered glass. "No," she screeched, but it came too late. A seismic wave of energy pulsed across the terminal's interface, and in that moment, the message I had been racing toward erupted like a supernova. "People of the Coalition, the truth you have unwittingly avoided has emerged. The Council seeks to isolate, manipulate, and control your destiny." Orion's voice pulsed through the airwaves, overflowing with conviction. "We fight for a reality where all species coexist without the veil of subjugation. Rise and reclaim your future." The terminal's blaring signal crackled as it infiltrated the ether, reaching out to every corner of the Coalition, sparking unrest amongst those who had been silenced too long. My heart raced with the potential of awakening humanity. Distant protests. Echoes of discontent surged throughout the universe as if calling back to life the dormant truths woven into the fabric of our existence. "Together, we are formidable," Orion thundered, and the entire overhead structure vibrated as more rebels surged past us toward Zilhara, pushing against the formidable clutches of authority. The eruption of fervor surged throughout the darkness, sparking brilliance where there was once only suppression. The battle raged on both sides, bodies clashing until dust rose high, the narrative shifting from uncertainty to unwavering solidarity. And now I shouted, signaling for the remaining civilians outside to join us. We are more powerful as one. Together, we will forge a future entwined in hope instead of fear. Zelhara struggled as Vega fought powerfully beneath her, but the fractured foundation of her will began to crack as the insurgents drew closer. No more control, no more isolation, I cried, racing among the estuary of bodies, gripping my weapon while the surge of rebellion surged around Zelhara like tides. The storm of chaos enwrapped us against the backdrop of a collapsing regime that had once towered with invincibility. I finally allowed my gaze to search for our families, those we stood to protect from a procedural indifference of life dictated by the Council. As the clash reached a fever pitch, I estimated each strike against Zelhara. Your reign ends here, a gritted Vega as he struck against her formidable presence with renewed fervor, the spark of rebellion igniting his spirit against her overwhelming dominance. No, you do not understand what you're doing, Zelhara yelled back, desperation inching into her voice. This isn't just an uprising, it's annihilation. You know, I countered fervently, stepping past. It's a birthright. We won't be ruled by the fear of others. The happiness of humanity reverberated through the air, and every soul who fought alongside me was driven by shared belief, a guide that led them from the depths of ignorance into the brilliance of self-awareness. With my heart pounding, I pushed further still, looking for that fragile thread binding us all. And just as the chaos reached a devastating crescendo, with Zelhara's defeat in some undeniable, surreal dance, everything shifted once more. Fiona, my sister, emerged through the doorway, eyes flaring with urgency. She was lost in the fray, reaching for understanding amidst turmoil, striding forward into the tumult. "Celia," she screamed, locking eyes with me. "The coalition ships are retreating. We're reclaiming our voice. Time shattered, stretching out into all potential futures, instinctively binding me to the moment." Here we stood on the brink of hope, nudged too close to devastation, but humanity found its way back to possibility, gathering not just weapons but unity against the chaos that had once divided us. As the fight surged through us, I took one last look at the unyielding storm of Zelhara, the mantle of authority crumbling beneath defiance, while Fiona stepped closer. "It's our moment, Celia," she urged. "The universe is listening," and just like that, against every fabric that once shackled us, we stepped into the fray as a singular voice, a living testament to the truth we had come to embody, channeling the raw power of fight and purpose into a resounding sense of awakening as we rejoiced. Together, we unfurled a new reality, buoyed by collective strength, as the future glimmered with infinite potential, a birthright we would claim and defend, forging a new existence across stars previously confined in shadows. For as darkness ebbed, the true journey was only beginning. The path weaving ahead was now ours to navigate, ours to shape, bathed in every possibility carved from humanity's shared will. In the great expanse around us, an echo of resilience rang true, vibrancy intertwining with our fight, revealing bright threads sewn into the cosmic tapestry. Together, we proclaimed, "We shall be reborn," and in that singular breath, the galaxy hummed with possibility, ready for a new dawn to unfold. The dust settled slowly over the battlefield as the first light of dawn broke beyond the horizon. Agakura 7 was scarred and battered, but deep within its heart, a flicker of hope began to ignite. We had rallied together against the Council, smashing the chains of fear that had held us prisoner for far too long. People milled about in quiet disbelief, coming down from the euphoria of battle to process their new reality, a world where humanity could rise as one, free of fear. I stood at the edge of the communications tower, accompanied by Orion and Vega, as we all exchanged exhausted, hopeful glances. Our breathing was labored, the adrenaline subsiding, replaced by the raw aftermath of chaos. But in that moment, the first wisps of warmth broke through the clouds, bathing us in golden light. "Or will it be enough?" I murmured, staring out at the scattered units of Council troops retreating into the ether. The sight ignited an uneasy mixture of triumph and anxiety. What happens now? Orion leaned against the tower with a determined gaze fixed on the unfolding horizon. "We've unleashed a storm, a fellow spark that throws challenge at every corner in our galaxy. Now comes the hard part where we must act. Take back our narrative," Vega added, catching my eye. "If we let them rewrite our story, the Coalition will thrust us back into suppression. The awakening we've sparked here must spread. The Council's grasp may have faltered today," I replied, glancing toward the clusters of rebels now cheering with renewed energy, "but factions remain. We need to unite the scattered voices of humanity, build alliances that can withstand the coming storm and halt any resurgence they might plan. Start with the embers here," Orion suggested, rolling her shoulder nonchalantly as if shaking off the weight of battle. "There are others like us fighting in the shadows. If we can connect and build something greater, it could crack open the Council's hold." The vision for cooperation settled in the air, and I took a breath, letting the idea take root, even as unease crept in around the edges. "We'll need resources, plans, and a base of operations. The Council won't take this lightly. They won't rest until we've been subdued." Vega nodded, the nervous energy radiating off him. "Then we begin rebuilding, but also we must regroup. There are planets where unrest simmers. The Zenith Collective has outposts waiting to ignite this new flame." As the truth settled into our conversation, the implications weigh heavy. The shift we wish to harness wouldn't happen overnight. It would require commitment, connectivity, and tenacity. "Agacura 7 will become a beacon," I declared, the conviction in my voice ringing loud and true. "We will gather our allies, spread the message beyond this world. Together, we'll approach the resistance on every corner of the Coalition, weaving through our varied experiences back into something strong, a voice determined to be heard." Orion straightened, her expression rekindling. "Remember what we fought for, Celia. Every person who stood beside us today experienced that break from oppression. We'll not only unite humans, but awaken our comrades in the Coalition. We may not be just individuals fighting for survival anymore. We might ignite a sense of kinship across galaxies." With renewed clarity, we set forth into the unfolding day, and as we moved, the cries of newfound optimism surged and echoed. The weight of defeat lingered in the background, but together we shed the toxicity of the old ways. The whispers of together expanded, echoing across the fields of Agacura 7, mingling with the dialogue of thousands. Asterisk days began to melt into weeks. Those initial elated moments faded, but did that forebode the difficult realities of what lay ahead? We reached out to distant planets, gathering the discontented and the hopeful alike, each recounting stories of Council cruelty wrapped in carefully constructed lies. But we also confronted Shadow's dissonance seated among utopia, gnarled ideas binding the Coalition's earlier fears into our nascent dreams. Council vessels had begun to whisper back into orbit. We calculated that their diminishing forces might regroup and retaliate in a fundamental way. I sat amidst maps of stellar routes and crude diagrams juxtaposed against messages flooding through our communication channels. The messages of rallying cries cascaded into our hub. "Look," Orion pointed toward the terminal, her eyes alight with possibility as she deciphered the data. "Here, the Heraxians, they've begun to question their allegiance. They have ships resources we can connect with them. And here," Vega added, tapping furiously on another screen, "the Intergalactic Mining Alliance discontent is front-facing. Their miners are being exploited by the Council. We can lead them toward a rebellion, rekindle what unity we've sparked. Time is not on our side," I reminded them. "We face a Council that won't just roll over. If we don't unify sooner than later," my voice trailed off, fear creeping in. "If we don't take every action to thwart their resurgence, we'll end up back where we started, at the precipice of despair." Then we plot our course, Orion declared. We coordinate and branch out. We need to ignite a choir of the rebellion. Where do we start? I asked, feeling the swell of daunting hope tightening around my chest. Agakura 7 is a strategic hub. Let's use it, Vega suggested, a fire illuminating his determination. If we launch a coordinated message to rally support, we'll amplify our collective strength across systems. It will be our clarion call against the Council. And so the plan began to unfold. Together, we composed dispatches to reach out to rebels, those desiring change, until every corner of the coalition flickered in anticipation, ready for the moment that followed. The idea was to galvanize disparate groups into a cohesive force, instigating emerging thought into a revolution reminiscent of our own awakening. ****, the day of our first unified broadcast approach came sharper than a comet's edge. Under the shelter of the communication tower, our small assembly sat poised before the screen, the air heavy with anxious anticipation. Remember, Orion spoke softly, pulling our attention toward her. This isn't just our fight. It's for every being that has suffered under the Council's regime. This is beyond us. I nodded in response, the tide of determination surging as I drew upon the voices we had begun to embody. Vega stood at the helm of our operations, fingers bound to the controls, ready to initiate our link. On my mark, we'll launch not just to the coalition, but to every corner we've touched. Agakura 7 stands symbolic. We're calling home. His countenance lit up with purpose as he activated the system, pulses of energy cascading like stars igniting through the night. 3, 2, 1 now. A surge of energy swelled, coursing through the console, and the distortion of static poured into existence. Our faces lit up across viewports, carried on waves of communication. We spoke into a microphone that had the power to reach countless souls. Every breath we took reverberated into the void and searched for connection. Citizens of the coalition, I began, my heart racing with urgency. Today, we stand united against oppression. We fight for truth, compassion, and the freedom of choice. The Council defines us no longer, for we are humanity resilient, brave, and unyielding. The message cascaded through holographic networks, feeding off one another's rhythms of defiance, reaching every sector of the coalition. As we wove our futures together, the words chimed across worlds, touching the hearts of every soul willing to stand beside us. The galaxy is vast, Orion spoke next, her voice draping the air with encouragement. We face insurmountable odds, but together we can reshape our destinies. Each of you has worth, strength, and a voice that must not remain silent. Vega stepped forward, his presence imbued with strength. We've merely broken the chains that sought to define us while forging connections with those ready to challenge the Council's terror. Your strength is a destiny we create together. Static erupted across the screen, and the pulse of energy melded with commitment and unity, the chaotic struggle transforming into a unified heart, amplified through countless stars. What unfolded revealed more than our resistance. It embodied a phoenix yearning for rebirth, ushering forth each individual's essence into a collective will. Fractured cries broke through at the edges, rallying to join when new factions entered, and soon agreement sparked embers into flames. Each soul ignited across the coalition. Through every message sent, whispers of discord against oppression echoed. Something began to transform in the twilight of our destiny. **** Days turned into restless nights, strategies woven like fabric around our growing insurrection directives. Agakura 7 pulsed with the rhythm of revolution. In time, small skirmishes broke out across systems. A sheer will led momentum, igniting rebellions akin to freshly blossomed stars. As the power shifted back and forth, alliances blossomed. The Heraxians joined in to strengthen our cause, alongside the intergalactic mining workers, factions that had long opposed the Council's dogma. We were no longer isolated voices, but forged into a movement that sang boldly across the universe. But while victories came in waves, shadows lingered, clouding the present. The Council began reorganizing, noting our rise and rallying their forces with formidable resolve. As the whispers echoed in the hallways of power, discussions swirled about making examples of systems that sought rebellion, and throwing every resource against the tide we had begun to forge. Celia, Orion's voice echoed as I stepped into the strategy chamber. She was poring over new reports. We just received word. An increased council presence gathering on Terramer Roman 3. What are they planning? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. It appears they intend to crush any resistance. The council knows we've gathered momentum. The message we've sent hasn't gone unnoticed. Can we counter? She exhaled sharply. We could send troops to face them off, but I fear a direct confrontation might spark retaliation we aren't equipped to handle. Then we look for a different approach. Perhaps we have a way to distract their forces. Scattered as they are, I suggested, my mind racing. If we pull their focus elsewhere, we could undermine their authority. Vega entered, his brow furrowed with concern. You're talking about a diversion. They will retaliate fiercely. People can get hurt. Isn't that the point? I shot back, tone rising. We need to force their hand. If we don't act now, we'll lose everything we've fought for. Our allies are fired up if we signal to our clustering forces. Orion leaned forward, deep in thought. Celia, if we strike before they can establish their foothold, we can shift their expectations, show them that the tide has turned. We can force them to spend their resources here. Organa 3 and Mepter have also shown resistance they'd join. I dashed to the holomap hanging before my eyes, tracing routes with trembling fingers, adrenaline squeezing through my veins. We need to disrupt their supply lines, launch coordinated strikes on their resource streams. The Council's hubris could be their undoing. If we make them believe we're ambushing them from every corner, we have to keep the pressure on until we can change course. Orion nodded sharply, the fervor reigniting in the air. Plans began to take shape around us, ideas blossoming as a whirlwind of hope surged through the gathering. Let's coordinate swiftly. We have to hit them before they can tighten their grasp. In the moments that followed, our surroundings pulsed with life. Each chess piece moved until strategies branched beyond reasoning where hope found its voice, manifesting raw commitment into a blur of action. Asterisk, 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 the day of our calculated strike dawned with nervous tension thrumming in the air. Rebels from every corner gathered under the banner of unity, rallying to prepare against the Council's reinforcements. I stood before our assembled forces, faces weary yet determined, a melting pot of distinct cultures and identities united under one cause, to reclaim our future. Today marks our stand against tyranny. For every moment they sought to silence us, to suppress our true potential. This is our destiny. Our lands are at stake. Our voices matter. I called out, allowing the energy in my voice to ripple through the crowd. A roar surged in response, no longer hoarse cries of fear, but a symphony of hope forging into a rallying wave. Those cries wrapped around us, weaving our existence into a tapestry of love and shared strength, a louder proclamation echoing against the horizon. As we steeled for impact, the rush of impending confrontation thundered like a heartbeat. Ships soared into the sky, emboldened by the cause that united them. We launched upon the waves of courage and resolve, spirits intertwined with every decibel of resistance as we pierced the chaos outside. What lay beyond the threshold, however, was more than just an enemy complete with battle, ready prowess. It emerged as the unmistakable essence of humanity. The awakening shone brighter than fear amongst the ageless struggle for autonomy we sustained alongside those we had gathered against. Asterisk, 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 I inhaled the charged air, feeling the collective will of forces gathered cascading through me. The time had arrived. We had provoked the Council's energies. Arrayed in our lines, we stood gathered and bold, prepared to face our fears and take on the ramifications of every choice defining our destiny. Perhaps it was our turn. Perhaps it was time to tilt the balance in this grand cosmic play. I moved forward, heart racing amidst the cacophony of engines roaring overhead. We surged ahead, bound by destiny, a revival extending into every galaxy beyond. As we charged into battle, our past tremors became the heartbeats serenading our claim to a universe rewritten in unity, a rallying song crescendoing through the stars. The first inklings of dawning acceptance began to bloom, hinting that the words we spoke and the actions we took carved pathways toward a future illuminated by the inherited spirit of every being across the cosmos. And so we moved into the fray as one, a revolution born from shared suffering, hopes ignited by burning ideals, leading us onward into the uncertain horizon winding ahead. Our voices echoed against authoritarianism. Together, we surged forth, our cause igniting a dance with fervent flames destined to shatter the darkness into light anew. Would we reclaim our destiny, conquer the chains of fear? Together, we would write this narrative, the compassionate revolution rising above. It was ours to claim, to forge into the unknown where hope blossomed. And in such a surge unfolding, a new beginning awaited. It beckoned, a promise abundant, an opportunity to shape bright futures where no one stood alone. A fresh tapestry threaded with identity, love, and an unyielding strength. As we crafted the dawn's embrace, our future shimmered, limitless, beneath the stars. The echoes of our rallying cries permeated the cosmos, grounded in our resolve as we launched into the chaos of conflict. Each pulse of energy rippled through the restless galaxy as our ships, forming kaleidoscopic patterns, navigated the atmosphere of Terra Roman 3, aimed at the heart of the Counsil's mechanized might. In orbit overhead, the glint of Counsil vessels twisted into the horizon, remnants of a crumbling authority prepping to meet the storm we had summoned. Terracotta-hued towers stretched into the sky, monolithic structures housing those who would perpetuate their dominion over the coalition, their silhouettes casting long shadows across the battlefield. I stood among the thrumming vibrations of our forces, adrenaline surging through me, knowing the time had come to harness every ounce of our unity. Form up, stay sharp. Vega's thunderous voice boomed over the comms as squadrons of rebels lined up and began break away patterns. Fighter vessels zipped through the air, laser fire illuminating the dusk sky, splattering against the walls of the Council's periphery defenses. In no retreat, we meet them head on. This is our moment. We have to keep pushing forward. I gripped the controls of my ship tightly, its sleek hull responding beautifully as we maneuvered through formations. Not just rebels, but families and allies. Each pilot on this mission carried the weight of our intertwined lives, pushing toward a singular destiny. Steady, Orion urged, her voice calm and composed. We stay connected. When we support one another, we become irrepressible. And there we were, weaving through chaos, bearing witness to history unfurling like a cosmic tapestry. In my heart surged the understanding of our purpose. The narrative we penned together could not be extinguished. The Council had underestimated humanity by far. Launching countermeasures, I declared, my hands gripping the controls as I released flares to distract enemy ships scrambling to reposition their weaponry. Pulsating lights danced across the framework of disillusionment. I spotted Council ships suffering through gouts of fiery resistance, uncertain in their shadowed beliefs. Ahead, I spotted the flagship of the Council, the Overseer. Its broad hull, fashioned from the darkest of metals, gleamed ominously against the sky. It was commanding all others, like a puppeteer clinging desperately to control over its marionettes. I could feel the hum of dread as we realized we were venturing into the heart of darkness. The perfect storm of conflict wove palpable tension through the airwaves. They would never yield willingly. It was time to call forward our greatest strength. "Ready the cannon," I shouted as we locked in toward the flagship, our rebel forces rallying beside me like an unwavering tide. "This is it. We give everything we have. We push into their bastion." Cannon charging, a voice chimed back from within the ship's cockpit, echoing the excitement surging through me. As the magnificent cannon charged up, tension vibrated through every inch of the ship. I felt it blend with the emotional current winding through the fleet, the heartbeat of purpose resonated louder than fear. I offered a silent prayer to every ally we stood with, each individual whose life might stand as collateral in this collision of ideas. 3, 2, 1, fire. The cannon erupted with radiant light, streaking toward the overseer, the energy spiraling toward something much larger than us. And in that one moment, we propelled the truth forward, unbridled and unshackled. It tore through the background of chaos like the sun emerging to pierce clouds, a meteor destined for humankind's resurrection. The impact reverberated across the overseer, and the ship staggered, bolts of energy igniting around it. A direct hit, they're faltering, keep pushing. Viga's voice stormed through the comms, electric with vigor. The flagship shuddered under the assault, the cacophony of sirens ripping through the airwaves, the energy shields fracturing briefly before the ship could rebound. And yet, the war was multifaceted, stitched in a fabric of uncertainty. Within the heartbeat of battle, I could almost hear the Council scrambling, adjusting their strategies even as we pressed in, forcing their hands against a tide that refused to relent. Getting reports of Council forces trying to flank us, Orion shouted, grounding us back into focus. They're attempting to regroup. We need to divide their attention. Divide and conquer, I affirmed, watching patterns whirl overhead. With a quick flick of my wrist on the comms, I spoke to our brigades. We need to send a few squadrons to intercept their retreating ships. Draw them away from Terramur Roman 3 to give us time to peel back their power base. Beyond every decision stood the voices of our combined histories, those who longed for unity through tenderness and vitality. The hope we exchanged was the anchor empowering every maneuver. There was truth residing deep in what we fought for. Participants of this experience became voices intertwined in our uprising. We longed for change at the hand of an organized vision. It will give them a run for their money, Vigor roared, and while stars flickered through vast cosmic planes, I felt our pulse race with unknown potential. I pulled our ship into the mix of chaos, heading toward the remaining Council vessels preparing to retreat, using our advantage to rip through their defenses while rallying my voice through the comms. Flank them now, don't let them escape. Ships cut through the air like bursts of light, each moment entwined between tactics and resolve. Lasers struck out in neon glimmers that told of resistance, colliding artfully to scatter fear amongst Council retinues. The precision we exuded revealed our power. Past mistakes faded like echoes amidst palpable dissent. I felt urgency stretching taut, threadbare against our burning hope. Yet above, amongst the persistent choir of war and chaos, making contact with me was a voice that called through my comms. Celia. It echoed, fragmented through validations, and reverberated as the universe buzzed with the essential weight of rebellion. Who is this? Through urgency laced every syllable, and I felt a shiver of anticipation as the voice whooshed through disarray. We've made contact. It's Fiona. I'm on the command base. I'm with the ground troops. The Council has underestimated us. We're taking Terramur Roman 3. I struggled to calm my breath, volatile hope, coaxing urgency. Fiona, can you hold the perimeter? Can we secure the ground? Their defenses are scattered. We're breaking through, Fiona urged, the echo of desperation wavering in confidence. But we need support from above. Reinforcements are bolting into the ground to assist. Every moment counts. You have to strike while they're disoriented. Then let's hit hard, I replied. Our drones will line up overhead once we've secured the perimeter. We'll work toward bringing reinforcements to you. A primal understanding surged within me as our plans descaled the consequential barriers, locking us in shadows. What we may shape in this moment could ally with an ever-growing power, tearing down the barriers once so stark between our fractured destinies. Gather squads, I commanded amidst the chaos, clarity seeping through the layered intensity of fight and purpose. Our time is now, but we do it together. No one goes alone. I felt the cool weight of harmony settle over us as ships twisted toward their targets, navigating through plasma-fueled bursts of color. As laser shots lit the night sky, the world fell quiet moments before the ambush. We were becoming the storm, and they were the breeze bending beneath us. Our imminent strike would resonate worldwide, a rebirth determined by connections forged across time and allyship. The voices of every discontented being rang in chorus as we surged forth as one. We witnessed the Council's power tremble, tormented by every interaction we wove immeasurably real. We rose, unyieldingly transcending doubt, ripping down the doors toward unrelenting possibilities. With all forces engaged, we are breaking through, Orion shouted, energy glowing about her like a newfound constellation, and together we turned the tide. ****, Chapter 7. The reckoning ***, the dust from our gunfire settled between us and the advancing Council forces. The screams of deployment mingled with energy discharges, creating a chaotic melody in the air as we surged forward, refusing to yield ground. Navigating the thick carpet of tension, a collective heart beat within our ranks, pulsating with purpose. Adrenaline coursed through me, every breath dripping with conviction. It was time to steady ourselves as warriors, stripping away the remnants of fear that had buried us for too long. This was our moment, to push forth in solidarity, reclaiming the narrative long stolen from us. This is it. Vega shouted into my comms as he maneuvered along the edge of battle, his eyes darting between enemy formations. We have to cut off their reinforcements. If we do not initiate the assault now, they will regroup and try to outflank us. I nodded firmly, rallying around our objective, and caught Orion's resolute gaze. We split up. We need to create a diversion on multiple fronts, push them to retreat earlier than planned. Agreed, she affirmed, determination radiating from her. We'll carry the atmosphere, diffuse their ranks, and keep our forces anchored against an overwhelming tide. Ground forces are engaged. Cover them, Vega added as I glanced at the screen-spinning flashes of readiness. Ground troops danced between glory and destruction, remnants of lives they had fought to protect entangled against their impending fates. The Council's forces were formidable, but fear alone would not dictate their futures, nor bind our present. Destiny sang within every heart as we summoned the courage shielded beneath layers of history. Let's ignite the heart of Terramar Roman 3. I roared over the comms, seeking to pierce through uncertainty. Words cascaded like flickers of energy, setting ablaze fires deep within each vessel, charging toward the front line. I zeroed in on my target, a series of energy beams pulsing through the stratosphere, weaving their way toward the heart of the Council's flagship, the Overseer. It loomed ominously, demanding to be challenged. Brace yourself. I shouted in perfect synchronicity with my creative energies, recalling the struggles countless forces had endured. I propelled my ship forward, lasering toward the immobilized Council vessels tangled within duality. The past and an awakening, anchored by unity. Every flicker of gunfire reminded me of the potency of what lay ahead. And now, I shouted, blasting energy beams toward the Overseer, the vibrancy intertwining with shimmers of hope, cascading through distant memories. In that moment, every being caught in silence sought voices they dared trouble into existence. Acquire new targets, prevent their retreat. Orion commanded, adeptly maneuvering her ship alongside mine, steering toward what lay ahead as synchronized aerial forces. The thriving battlefield wrapped around us like raw magic as we revitalized every soul cascading into rebellion. The air thickened with excitement, both electric and fulfilling. It signaled the final push we needed to reclaim our narrative. The Council's flagship staggered under the barrage of our combined forces, lights flickering amidst an emerging dance of camaraderie as ground troops clamored to break through their lines. Hold together, I yelled into the chaos of comms, urging every vessel to stay steady amidst the discords of combat. You remember why we fight. Solidarity fuels the flame of the countless souls lost. Charge forth with all you have, and in that moment we did. We surged together as one. The crowd transformed into an eternal echo. Voices thick with fervor ring out, cascading into the whispers of hope, beckoning the languishing to rise. But Terramar is ours, echoed from the depths of the battlefield, invigorating life among every rebel spirit. And as the final stair-step approached armed voices, The tide swelled amongst the dwindling ranks of the Council's forces, leading us onward to restore humanity's legacy. Blasts of energy dance and flicker along the horizon, detached yet captivating me into a realm where dreams imbued every clash. Moments folded together evolving, gathered under the weight of history and hope. I offered silent gratitude to every soul sparking beneath the skies of Terramar, a journey ingrained with purpose, binding us ever deeper. Overseer commands are fading, they're breaking. Orion breathed into the calm, her voice wrapped in the thrill of victory, extraordinary in its revelation. That's our moment, forward, I shouted with unchecked fervor, tightening my grip around the helm, reminding myself we invested through unity and discovery. The Council would crumble, too proud to see their hubris laid bare. We pressed onward, surging through growing gaps, cutting strands of their retreat that sought absolution forgiveness worth everything we yearned. The Council's forces gasped as we propelled ourselves into new pathways, defining what we had forged. The unity that resonated began to flow, a communal hymn reshaping and reclaiming our rightful legacy. As we raced through the remnants remaining between us, I could hardly fathom the enormity of connection lying ahead. We belonged here. Every voice stoked fires igniting our hearts, courage threading warmth across this once fragmented reality, reaffirming existence amidst the growing storm. For every step forward absorbed stories, forging dreams inked within the ether. It blossomed into the pulse of a growing awakening, proclaiming who we were, and what we could become. The infinite potential nesting in the core of our humanity through change. We were becoming the legends we yearned, an indelible force rising above challenges with vigilant eyes wide open, hungry for connection between worlds longing to come alive again. Together, I felt the timeless call surrounding us. In a singular motion, we declared ourselves, united against oppression, persistently shaping futures coalescing once more. In Terramar's heart, the Council's hold began to dissolve while destiny reclaimed its place as one with the cosmos. The stars birthed anew into illuminating truths. Our fight was far from over, yet like a canvas, we now stood painted into our own unique future. A stand witnessed as legend penned itself upon the very fabric of time. And beyond the theater of chaos, an awakening dawned deeper still, a realization of yet more possibilities on the horizon, beckoning us into a world bright with potential. As shadows edged away, together we marched into the narrative awaiting, formidable yet soft. And it was ours to traverse into infinity. As the dust settled over Terramar Roman 3, the victorious cries of our coalition echoed across the scarred terrain. The Council's defenses faltered, their authority waning under the relentless push of hope and unity we had wrought from the ashes of despair. The fierce battle had birthed a new beginning, yet I could feel the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air, heavy as starlit void. Veselia, look. Orion's voice broke through the haze, and I turned to find her standing amidst the remnants of conflict. Eyes locked on the horizon where sparks of light danced against the darkening sky. A distant shimmer unfurled before us, an impending fleet rising like a specter, a reminder of an ongoing struggle. The Council won't take this defeat lightly, I said, dread pooling in my gut. We've rattled their cage, and now they'll respond with fierce resolve. It doesn't matter, Vega interjected, determination blazing in his eyes. If they've underestimated us, look at how far we've come. There are other factions rallying. They will join our cause. As more rebels assembled around us, worn yet resolute, the energy of triumph fired our hearts. I caught sight of familiar faces, the civilians and soldiers alike, who had fought for a dream that was as much their own as ours. But within their cheer, the looming specter of the Council lingered, a dark cloud promising further trials. We need to solidify our position, I said, moving toward the center where the gathered rebels were monitoring incoming reports. We can't rest on our laurels. We must fortify our defenses and prepare for what comes next. Orion nodded, pushing a stray lock of hair from her face, smudged with remnants of battle. Agreed. We can't lose sight of our mission. Let's regroup and establish a command center to coordinate efforts. The moment we relax, they'll strike. I felt the electric resolve surging through our forces as we began setting up a more permanent base within the ruins of the Council's infrastructure. The remaining officers scurrying like ants to gather remnants of technology and resources. Strengthening our foothold was crucial. If we faltered now, the Council would certainly retaliate. As night descended, casting shadows across the war-torn landscape, we gathered around a crude holographic display table, the blue hues shimmering to life under the soft glow of emergency lights. A vast map of the coalition emerged, peppered with notations reflecting the current state of chaos and preparation. All intelligence indicates Council vessels are regrouping, Vega stated, leaning closer to the hologram. Terramer is vulnerable now, but other planets adjacent to us. There are organizations still loyal to the Council. They've been waiting, plotting. I pointed to various dots crawling like ants across the surface of the galaxy. We need alliances, strong ones where those looking for rebellion can stand with us. If we extend our network and unite these factions, we might create a deterrent from further Council aggression. The Haraxians are restless, Orion suggested, tracing her finger over their sector. They may not stand with the Council, but neither are they on our side. They see us as opportunists. Let's prove we're not, I replied, crafting the emotional edge of my strategy. Instead, we lead with kindness. We offer support, resources, and a powerful allyship. If they see we're here for more than just ambition, we'll create the bonds needed to forge a sturdy coalition of hope. Drawing breath, I held the gaze of each rebel surrounding me, their eyes brimming with determination. We're entering uncharted territory. The Council won't hesitate to fight back, and if we don't act, we risk losing everything we've fought for. But within that struggle lies an opportunity, a chance for new beginnings. As the night deepened, we strategized our moves. Details came together like a delicate weave, each thread dense with potential. Reports filtered in detailing the Council reinforcements, along with whispered rumors of other systems dissatisfied with the Council's governance. The groundwork for a sprawling rebellion lay just beneath our fingertips. Suddenly, a tremor reverberated through the ground, echoes of engines bouncing like disturbed stone. They're here. Vega peeled away from the strategy table, alert, adrenaline coursing through him. Get to your stations. A wave of urgency washed over our ranks as the assembled fighters rushed to their posts, energy wary yet alive, infused with the realities of conflict. I could feel the tension crackling through the air as the distant roar of ships filled the void. The Council had indeed returned, a vengeful tide ready to lash out against our defiance. Lock down all defenses, I shouted, positioning myself at the center of our new command post. We're not just defending, we're going on the offensive. Show them that we're not afraid. The sound of ships descending intensified. Blasts of energy erupted, streaking toward us from their vessels. The arena erupted into combat, a chorus of shattering energy beams and the cries of rebellion surging forth. Defensive systems kicked in as blaster fire erupted, intermingling with the surging cries of the Council as they descended upon us, desperate to reclaim what they felt was rightfully theirs. Let them come, I declared, adrenaline spiking with each clash. We will stand tall against their tyranny, yet, amid the bright flashes of lasers and the dark shrouds of incoming enemy craft, I noticed something striking. A flicker of light emerging from the western skies, the shape of an enormous ship breaking through the atmosphere, shimmering like jewels on the battlefield. Is that what I think it is? Orion shouted, bewildered. The ship glided gracefully towards us, revealing its sleek form, emblazoned with an emblem, a collaboration of planets united. They had come in our hour of need. The Intergalactic Mining Alliance, Vega exclaimed. They've responded. As the ship hovered above us, beams of energy interspersed across the Council ranks, fostering chaos and confusion within their ranks as allies surged forth with renewed vigor. Assistance had arrived, and together we would weave a tighter net, bringing forth the power within our newfound coalition. Move out, flank them. I roared over the static of the comms, bolstered by the convocation of newfound hope. The tide of battle began to turn as fresh forces joined our ranks. the Heraxians pushing alongside us, fueled by the burning desire for liberation against oppressive chains. Recognition sparked as our coalition transformed completely, the threads unifying in fire, determination. As the battle raged on around us, I felt the air vibrate with a new resonance. This was not simply a fight against the Council. It was a shared stance with allies who had once been shrouded in anonymity. Here was a melding of hopes, dreams, and aspirations. With energy surging in my veins, I knew at that moment we were on the brink of redefining what it meant to be united, our myriad voices amplifying into a singular anthem. Together, we rallied, our command echoing through the battlefield as the vibrant battlefield swelled with life, renewed purpose igniting every fiber of our being. Together against oppression, together for the future. The culmination of our resolve surged through us as we flanked our adversaries, seizing control, pushing against the weight of authority crumbling before our very eyes. This was the reckoning we had long awaited, reborn into a reality sculpted from the ashes of suppression, a glimmer of hope dancing across a universe that had once felt lost. The roar of energy scattered through both factions, the momentum gathering firmly beneath us as new alliances forged in fire began to flow toward victory. There lay a shimmering path illuminated by countless stars, a testament to the rise of humanity, unified and unshackled, ready to reclaim its place within the vastness of the cosmos. As I stood amidst the battle, bolstered by the weight of our shared purpose, I realized we were defining a narrative woven together, one of remembrance, healing, of renewed ambition pinched with hope. Terramur Roman 3 transformed around me, a chrysalis of promise destined to explode into a realm of interconnected truth and possibility, ready for whatever lay ahead. In that moment, with our fortitude shining amidst the chaos, I knew that even in the face of adversity, we were becoming the authors of our own fate, encompassing the blazing truth buried deep within our hearts. Together we would rise, redefining every galaxy in our wake. We were humanity, and this was just the beginning of our legacy. The battlefield of Terramur Roman 3 thrummed with energy and determination as chaos coalesced into a vivid tapestry of light. Our forces surged forward with renewed vigor, the weight of our collective hopes and fears spiraling through the air like a comet leaving behind a radiant tail. The Council's ships, once looming symbols of oppression, began to stagger against the onslaught of unity embodying each soldier, rebel, ally, and civilian fighting for a brighter future. Push forward, grant them no quarter. I bellowed into the comms, feeling renewed waves of vigor swell around us. The once disparate factions of the coalition rallied under our banner, and for the first time, the Council found itself on its back foot amid relentless assault. Caught between the fracturing shards of authority and the fire of rebellion ignited within every being gathered to reclaim their narrative. Sparks flew as our ships connected amid the fray, and I maneuvered through the onslaught. I caught sight of Orion and Vega blasting through the disoriented ranks of the Council as new battalions bolstered our already formidable presence. Encouragement rippled through the channels, support flowing from every corner of the newly forged alliance. "This ends here," Orion cried out over the escalating clamor. The light from energy blasts illuminated her hardened expression, resolute against a backdrop of chaos. "We break their hold once and for all." Before us, the Overseer swayed in the atmosphere, metal groaning under the stress of failing energy shields. I felt a surge of anticipation course through our ranks. The once untouchable symbol of the Council's power was crumbling. "We'll target the main reactor," I declared, rallying our forces as we maneuvered toward its solar array. If we could cripple their command, we would send a shockwave through their ranks, perhaps forcing them to withdraw entirely or, given the right push, restructuring their alliances. "On my mark," Vega shouted, and I could feel the spark of determination weave through us like an electric current, binding our resolve. 3, 2, 1 now. A volley of concentrated energy erupted against the Overseer, sweeping across its hull while sending an arc of blue light rippling through the chaos. The forces converged, seizing power in a symphony of unified strength. "It's working," I shouted, excitement swelling in my chest as the overseer shuddered. We pressed forward, not letting up. In the midst of our offensive, I caught glimmers of dissent within the Council ranks. Their fears were palpable, visible in the flickering of their ships, pulling apart as chaos intertwined with uncertainty. Ahead, emerging from cloaked shadows, I spotted Commander Zarin, the Council's ruthless strategist. He stood upon the command platform, a dark silhouette overlooking the chaos with an expression of simmering rage. "We shall not yield," he thundered. "We'll bring forth the siege reinforcements." But even as he turned the tide of desperation into a fervor for revenge, a soft but insistent spark ignited among our coalition. The coalition under our flag would not back down. Each face surged with the vibrancy of our collective strength. Regroup, push back. I called over the noise, rallying our forces as I felt the world around us vibrate too alive with possibility. We were not just fighting against oppression. We were rallying behind the promise of unity and hope, a narrative belonging to all sentient beings yearning to be free. The moment crystallized before me, a human, an ally, a warrior forged in this chaos. And we would not only claim victory, we would change the tide of history itself. Beyond the battlefield, the hearts of other worlds began to stir, echoes of our struggle sparking recognition, whispers amongst your allies reaching every corner of the cosmos. "Take us in closer," Vega commanded as we pressed forward, our ships spiraling toward the Overseer's vulnerable underbelly. I gripped the controls tightly, my heart racing in rhythm with the burgeoning hope surrounding us. With each impact, we felt the fragile tether between power and oppression fray, a symphony of unmistakable spirit rising from within our cohorts, synchronized in purpose. Each target struck echoing the promised dawn that awaited us. "Go forward," Orion rallied, her voice loud and sure, a clarion call ringing across the resistance. As she shot through the barrage, I focused ahead, glimpsing the reactor pulsating like a beating heart encased in metal. It throbbed with potential devastating energy looming just beyond reach. "Let's finish this," I yelled, momentum building. With a final rallying cry, we aimed our ships toward the reactor, unleashing concentrated firepower in a brilliant explosion of unity. The surge of energy detonated like fireworks, coloring the night sky in uncontainable brilliance. The ground beneath us trembled, and the Overseer loomed as if caught in a cosmic dance, breaking under the weight of the very constructs it had once birthed as instruments of oppression. "Acclaim our future," I shouted one last time as the energy cascaded against the reactor, merging with the cries of defiance swirling around us. Then the ship combusted, the shock wave blasted outward. A brilliant explosion of light shattered the night and lit the swirling chaos with the pulse of liberation. A victory, the glorious resonance surged around us. We had toppled the Council's stronghold, rattled its core, and stripped away its power. But amidst the cheers and cries echoing across open voids, I felt a twinge of uncertainty. This battle is won, but what comes next? I whispered to the ether as the exhilarating energy coursed through the remnants of the battle. As the remnants of the Overseer crumpled from above, the vibrant glow of possibility sparked awareness spiraling outward, indicating a constellation of futures waiting to be written. Would we align, extend our hands toward one another, crafting pathways bound by the lessons learned from this haze of chaos? In the aftermath of our strife, the skies hanging above us grew quieter, revealing an emboldened new day shimmering in the distance. The Council, reeling from their defeat, hinted at vulnerability. The stars of the galaxy held their breath, waiting for what would emerge from today's battle. Projecting possibilities into the surrounding chaos, I turned toward my allies, their eyes gleaming with hope, yet heavy with the duty of continued vigilance. We can't settle. We must gather with those who fought alongside us. The Council will not rest until they regain control, Vega added, his voice sharpened by the raw energy coursing through our ranks. Then we must stand together. Magic resides in every soul. Together, we write our narrative until the very end, where every heart finds solace in truth, I affirmed. And so, looking into the horizon ahead, I felt the pulse of determination blossom through agents of shimmering fate. Our voices reverberated with promise as more vessels descended toward the remnants of the battlefield. Yet, as we forged forward, questions loomed. A reckoning awaited. We had taken the first leap toward a renewal of connection across the galaxy, but how deep did our resolve run? How far could we journey together, stitching together this newly formed tapestry and keeping the vision alive through shared dreams? In unity we shall rise, I proclaimed, casting my voice into the universe, anchoring my heart in the promise of tomorrow. Across Terramar, our futures are woven anew. We will embrace the stories yet untold, brick by brick, forging the legacy destined to echo through time. Together, we are the architects of this cosmic renaissance. As we turn toward our next chapter, a future alive, emboldened by every connection we would summon, reality shimmered just beyond reach, unwavering like the stars awaiting their cue. A symphony shimmering in the cosmos, calling us onward. Together, we were reborn. The canvas laid before us stretched immeasurable, ready for creation, beckoning, alive with endless potential. And so, amid the aftermath of battle, we began to gather the pieces of our lives, our stories woven together, resilient against the storms of discontent. This was not the end, but a resounding new beginning, echoing across sectors and civilizations. A promise born anew, a legacy ever bright, endlessly unfolding like constellations trembling with purpose against the cosmos. Under skies thick with origination, we stood resolutely, hearts aligned on the voyage ahead, ready at last to embrace the unknown, fearless against every uncertainty. Thus, we journeyed together into the dawn, the stars shining brightly overhead, resolute against the void of solitude. The universe awaited our resonance, and we would answer together, forever.